like a little screwdriver or a pick or something, just to like loosen it from the plug, basically, wherever side looks like it will come out, before trying to pull that connector off. You're gonna have to remove this nut here. I think it's a 3/8 driver you're gonna need for that, and the same with just loosening that nut there. There's a hook on this end of the ramp, and then this nut here that will release this portion of the ramp, which just slides forward out of these hooks, and then the crystal ball assembly will also be available to take off. There's nothing else holding it on, if I remember correctly. There is another screw post right there, threaded post, but nothing's on it. So that will be the disassembly of the game, and then we'll look at the assembly of the crystal ball. So here are the pieces of the crystal ball. You're going to take it apart after you take it out of the machine. This main ball is attached to the base with a couple of screws in the back, and the screen, along with the screen bracket, and the screen is attached to the screen with 4 screws here. You're going to need to, actually they're on the back, you're going to need to remove those 4 screws and take the screen out of the bracket. So that's the disassembly of these pieces. And so here is what you'll receive in your crystal ball kit. Of course, there'll be a ball installed on yours, but this is what you receive basically. So this is a screen frame, pretty similar to that metal one that you had originally, and then this packet comes with all the installation hardware. So first thing you're going to want to do is you can go ahead and attach your screen here first. Let me grab my screen. Okay, so here's my frame with the screen already on it. Basically, I just use 2 of the tiny M2 screws. So there's 1, there's 2, and there'll be 2 little nylon M2 lock nuts. And you'll just want to use, I would just use 2 in diagonal corners. That way you can tilt the screen, raise it up and down within the frame, and that will let you make some adjustment about where you want the height of the screen to be. You can also flip the screen. If you decide that for some reason you need the height difference with the screen on the top side, you can flip it around in the frame, and I believe everything will still connect and fit. But generally it goes with the plug on the top side. So you'll install that on the frame, and then you're going to probably next would be install the frame on the upper base, the pivoting base. So for that, there are 2 M3 screws right there and 2 M3 lock nuts, and those screws just go through the top of the screen, top of the frame, and then down through the base, and the nuts go on the underside, which go in those little slots there on the underside. And then you'll have the screen frame attached to the upper base, and that will be ready to go. Obviously, you can position the screen as best you see fit, both by loosening the entire frame and sliding it up and down in these slots, but also raising that up and down, you know, just all the positioning you'd want to be able to have there to center the screen in the frame and get it to the right height for you. And I'll show you as I'm installing it how you can do those adjustments. So then the next thing would be to take this piece with the ball and the screen already installed, and it's going to connect in here. There should be a nut embedded in your base right there, and that's trapped in there, so you want to leave it in there. And you're going to use this plastic piece, which is a little cam, and you're going to use this long M3 bolt, hex bolt, and that's going to go right through. Let's see if I can position this while holding the camera. This piece uses these teeth. Those teeth face inward and the flat side faces up. So that's basically the orientation. The bolt is going to go through that piece, and then through this part of the base, of the upper base. And so you'll have this piece assembled basically with those 3 components together, and then this base, main base, is going to install in the game. Alright, so this is how the base goes onto the game. You're just going to pop it on here and throw an 832 nut on there, and tighten it down. Hopefully you have a thin socket to get in there. If not, I just use a pair of pliers to twist it a few turns. You can use your finger to get it most of the way down, and then a few turns to tighten it. But you may want to leave it a little loose so you can move this around, and then come back later and maybe do it from back here, or take the ball back off and do it. So that's that part, and now we'll look at putting the ball on top. Alright, so now that you have the base installed like that, you're going to take the ball assembly at the top with the one that has the screw and the nut, and the locking plate there, the cam plate, like this, and you're going to want to make sure that the screw is just at the end right there. That's going to allow you to do is then drop this whole piece right in there, and then you can push the screw the rest of the way in to the nut, and then you'll use an Allen wrench to tighten that down. So I'm going to do a little of that while I have to move the camera, and then we'll continue. Okay, so I dropped the ball assembly down on top. It takes a little bit of finagling to just be able to have that screw just sticking out a little, or not a little, just sitting flush with it really, and being able to drop it in. But you'll be able to get it in there, and then you'll use a 3/32 Allen wrench to be able to tighten that bolt into the nut that's in there. Don't push too hard. You don't want to push the nut out of its trapment in there, but you can always put it back in. Use a little super glue to hold it in if it comes out. And you can tighten that down. You don't need to tighten it too much right now. You're going to want to adjust that. Yeah, that's the basic there. Of course, you'll just do reverse everything you just did to take off the ramp and plug back in. Of course, this connector goes in the top row of pins on the back of the screen. And of course, if you haven't oriented the same way as it came out, and then you can start adjusting. So I would say with the ramp back in, you can lower this guy back into the game, and you can go into the test mode, which will show a test pattern on the screen, and then you can start adjusting. Basically, you know what I was doing, I was just standing there pretending I was playing and try to see what looks best. Obviously, you can turn it left, right, up, down, angle, whatever you need to do to get the image centered in the crystal ball, and then the crystal ball pointing at your eye line. And that's basically it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.